Chapter 54. The Great Blessings of an Asshole. Shortly after the filming of my second television appearance, I had to call in sick at work because I was feeling extremely rough. I believe I had some kind of food poisoning or something. Because not only did I have diarrhea, I was throwing up as well. And I was in no condition to go to work. Now, bear in mind, this was the only day off I had in all the time that I worked at this place. This place being the same courier company that had the nickname of Don't Have Lunch. Now, as I stated before, the management and some of the supervisors, they wasn't very nice people. So let's put it that way. If they had to audition to play the role of an unpleasant mill owner, they'll do quite well because they wouldn't really have to change much of their character to fit into that role. Being supportive to their staff, I don't think was in their vocabulary. Now, there was one supervisor in particular. Now, I don't know his name because I believe the name they called him was a nickname. So because it was a nickname, I'm perfectly safe to say that nickname as it was in his actual name. And they called him Moz. At the time, he was fairly well built. He was clean shaven. He had no hair in his head. And all the time I spent there, I think I was there for about 2 years, I'd never seen the man smile. At the back of my mind, I always suspected that he was probably a racist, but this is something I could never prove because I had no proof. There was no situation for me to actually really accuse him of this. It was simply an impression I had, a vibe, an impression he gave me, shall I say. However, in all honesty, I can't really say that I was certain of that impression. Anyway, we fast forward one day later. I was now feeling well. I came back to work, business as usual. Now, I can't remember whether it was that same evening when I got back from my round or whether it was a couple of days later, but either way, Mars pulled me to one side to have a chat. And he made it very clear that he wasn't happy that he had to cover my round for one day. And he was going on about the fact that I had to take the day I took the day off. He seemed totally unconcerned of the state of my health. When I said to him, well, I was throwing up and I was having diarrhea, what do you expect me to do? Did you really expect me to come into work under those circumstances? His response, oh, we could have sorted something out. Sorted what out? Sorted exactly what could he have sorted? What could they have sorted out? What, me throwing up in a van in front of customers and me soiling myself? Now remember, that courier company with their yellow vans and their 3 red letters had the nickname Don't Have Lunch because the workload on the average courier was very pressurized and very stressful and very physically demanding. Hence why the morale was quite low and it earned that nickname Don't Have Lunch. So even though he had to cover my round for one day, that was one day of pressure. Believe me, it was one day, and he had been working there for years. The thing that really infuriated me was there was no concern for the state of my health, be either before or after my day off. He was only concerned about the pressure that he took by covering my round for one day. Now, during that 3-minute chat, I never felt the urge to smack somebody in the jaw so much in my life. That day, there were 3 reasons why I avoided confrontation. Reason number 1, if I attacked him in the manner in which I wanted, I would have definitely got the sack. And 2, if I got the better of him, I don't know where things would have ended up, because if he ended up on the floor, it would have been quite likely I could have stamped on his head. And 3, the way I would have left him, I would have definitely been looking at a police cell that night, along with a charge of GBH. So I maintained that volcano, that tsunami of rage inside of me, and I just walked away. And I remember thinking, right, I don't know where he lives, but I'm going to make it my business to find out more about him and find out where he lives. And I started to dwell on him. I started to think about the best way I could harm him and not get caught. And that's when it happened. That's when the switch was turned on inside of my soul. I thought, you know what? Best that you avoid that situation, because that could totally fuck up your life. And the consequence of growing up the way that I grew up, in terms of not really being allowed to express my true feelings and say what's on my mind, meant as a result, I pent a lot of anger up inside of me when I should really just express it. This is what I'm saying about damage. I mean, if I just said to him, well, Moz, I think you're a fucking cunt. You're a fucking arsehole. You go fuck yourself. If I had said that, I would at least got it off my chest, but I didn't. And 2 days later, I was angry within myself for not telling them that. Now, the problem with telling them that a few days later, then I would lose my temper. And if I lost my temper, then I would definitely attack him. So I arrived at the decision that it's best that I hand in my notice and leave that place, because as long as Moz is there and I'm working there, something bad is going to take place. Secondly, I wasn't happy in that place anyway. So in short, Moz was the straw that broke the camel's back, the final nail in the coffin. Moz gave me that final push I needed to hand in my notice at a place that I really wasn't happy in. But I didn't realize it back then, but that was the epitome of the saying, every dark cloud has a silver lining. Because thanks to Moz, not only did his unpleasant actions change the direction of my journey on the dating scene, I ended up arriving at the gates of a lifestyle that was not only a faster pace than the average person, but that was more unusual than the average person. So the irony is, as much as I wanted to rip Moz's head off, I wanted to beat him to a pulp. I wanted to leave him almost lifeless on the floors of the company that has a nickname Don't Have Lunch. Now looking back in hindsight, I want to shake his hand, give him a hug, and buy him a nice cool beer at the bar, or even a bottle of wine. So Moz, on the very small chance that you may be listening to this, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being that unpleasant cunt that done me such a favor, that made me witness such wonderful years to follow. Thank you so much. Thank you for being an arsehole that gave me that great blessing.